Alright, welcome back to the channel everyone. Hope everyone's doing fantastic. I decided to hit the record button, but unknowingly to me I didn't realise the microphone was on. I was working on this bezel setting, soldering it onto a backplate. I thought I'd bring you along and show you how I managed to do it. So first off, we've got to make sure our backplate is completely flat. I'm just going through, I've got a little bit on the end of it at the bottom, a little bit left to sand back till it's completely flat. And I've got my little metal block and some 400 grit sandpaper. I'm just going to sand that, do some figure eights, and I'll rotate the piece here so I'm keeping an even wear as I'm sanding down the piece of silver. And I'll just keep repeating that process and I'll check it just to see how we're doing. I've got just a little bit left on that bottom edge to go, so we're going to just keep going back on that, doing our figure eights. And of course rotating it, keeping that wear nice and even. Now I apologise about the no sound. I thought I'd try and do a bit of a voiceover because it was not bad video. Too bad can't hear me talking in it. So I should be just about finished here, I think. Just double checking it. Oh, a little bit more. You can just do circles as long as you just keep rotating the piece of silver. You just want to keep that nice and even wear, keep it flat, perfectly flat. Just double checking it again. Still a little bit more. I can be a little bit pedantic sometimes, but it's best to be, because if you get every process right, it makes all the processes go a little bit easier. Yeah, there we go. We're looking for that nice even sheen right across the piece of silver. We're just going to clean it off on our shorts. I've got bits of rags and stuff laying around for all that, but none was right in arm's reach. So now I'm just going to paint some Flux on there. This will protect the solder, the fusing, from any oxides, any contaminations. I just painted it on the whole surface. And I'll do the same thing on the bottom of this bezel, on the whole base, covering every little bit of it, going over it once or twice. Now just positioning it, making sure I've got my shape right, because it is a little bit wider on one end, this stone. This bezel. Now I'm just making sure I've got enough material on the outside of the bezel on the base plate that I can file it back to it. Just need sliding over a little bit more on one side. I'm just going to press down just to make sure. Now I've got some bits of solder, you can only just sort of see, blends in with this Hebel block. I've got two long pieces about 4 or 5 mil long, and they're going to go along length of the bezel on the inside. That one just dropped right in there. Now getting the other one for the other side. And what I'm going to do is just evenly space them out, all the bits of solder. I've got 8 pieces of solder, and I'll just evenly spread them apart so we get an even spread of solder all around the bezel. So I've got my little solder pick. It's just a TIG welding tungsten. Works pretty well. And I just dip the tip of the tip in the flux just to get the solder to stick to the tip, so I can get the solder right into the inside corners. Just a handy little tip there. Use a little bit of flux solder to help you pick up the bits of solder. And you can just ever so gently place them into the spot you need. Needs another little dip. And again, just spreading them out evenly spaced all the solder. It can be a little bit finicky, but you just got to be a little bit patient and you will prevail. And don't have 3 cups of coffee, otherwise you might be shaking a little bit too much. So this bit of solder's being a sticky little bugger. Keeps sticking to my pick, trying to get it off there, but it's just not happening. Can be a little bit frustrating, but you just don't let it get to you. Oh, I've got a chook in here. So there we go, we got that bit. Now I think this is the last, or second last. Just gently putting it into place. Now I think I'm just double checking, making sure everything looks alright. If the bezel's still positioned well on the back plate, with a bit of material hanging over the edge. Now I'm getting my solder torch. Just going to turn it down a little bit. And we're going to start from a fair distance away and just slowly heat the whole piece up, and all the flux will bubble. If you heat it up too fast, the flux will bubble a great lot and throw your bits of solder outside of the whole bezel. So I'm just slowly bringing it up to temperature, letting it bubble just slightly, and it'll bubble for a good 30 seconds to a minute, and you'll know when it's stopped bubbling, and you'll have to move your bits of solder back into position. Just got to keep a little bit of heat, otherwise your flux will go hard and you won't be able to move your solder. So it stopped bubbling, and now I'm just going in and moving all my bits of solder back into position right up against the bezel and the back plate. So it's pretty much touching both pieces of silver. Spinning it around so I can get access to the other side. there's the 3 coffee shakes. And I'm just checking that I haven't moved the bezel too far on the backplate, but everything looks good. So I'm just evenly heating the whole piece, the backplate and the bezel, not focusing too much heat in one area, because with soldering you heat the material you want to solder and the solder flows to it. So we're just going round and round, keeping an even heat, slowly bringing it up, not too fast. I've got my pick on hand just in case a bit of solder wants to move, but everything seems to be looking pretty good. I'm going to go in for a bit of a zoom in shot here so we can see the solder flow. And coming up just about now, it's going to start flowing. But I'm going to keep that heat on because I can see a gap on the top side that doesn't quite flow in. Yeah, you can just see it. But when I come in here with my solder pick and just press down on it, it flows right through. There we go. Nice. Now I'm just going to pick it up and see if I can get a good shot to show yous. I think I've got to get a better hold of it, Josh. Yeah, there we go. That's it, a bit blurry. Bring your hand in, Josh. There we go. As you can see, we've got a pretty much good flow of solder right through it. Well, excellent flow of solder actually. And it's wetted right out to the outside. And I'm just going to dump this in the pickle. And we'll be done. Rightio. Hope everyone enjoyed that. If you liked it, don't forget to hit that button. And if you haven't subscribed, better subscribe as well. Alright guys, I'll catch you all later.